What's up, guys? How you doing? This is Micah Dobbins, host of the Micah Dobbins Show, powered by Misfits of Media. And today I wanted to talk to you guys about the various social media platforms where you can find my show. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. I would love for you to go to those platforms. You can hit follow or subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell on YouTube and leave a comment, share. Let us know what you think about the show. I really look forward to hearing from you guys. So if you want to partner with me and help get the word out about this new independent media, be sure to check out all of those platforms. Also, you can visit my website, www.themicahdobbinsshow.com. We put up new videos and content all the time, and we would love for you to follow us there. All right, guys, so glad you tuned in, and we're going to go ahead and start with our first story in breaking news. So for those who don't know, the NBC canceled the Golden Globes for 2022. That's right, the HFPA must first address the problems that they've been having, and a lot has been going on right now, if you haven't heard. According to USA Today, Hollywood pushed back against the scandal-plagued Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and it's become like an avalanche since Monday, as NBC announced that it won't broadcast the HFPA's Golden Globe Awards ceremony in 2022. Many different networks, Netflix, Amazon, Warner Media, all said that they were going to distance themselves from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association based upon allegations of racism, sexual abuse, and many other grievances. The HFPA is made up of an 87-member group, which are critics for overseas media outlets. They've been engulfed in many issues, some of them from preferential treatment sought by its members to lack of racial representation in its ranks, which also includes no black members whatsoever, according to the Los Angeles Times investigation this year. In fact, from what I understand, the last time that they had a black member was like back in, I think, like 2002 or something like that. So it's been quite a while since they've had any involvement from the African-American community. In another blow to the HFPA, A-lister Tom Cruise actually returned 3 Golden Globes back to the organization. And when you have somebody of that magnitude, you know, Tom Cruise, who has done so many films and is so beloved in Hollywood, naturally it's going to cause other A-listers to come out and speak out against it as well. So Scarlett Johansson and Mark Ruffalo both actually came out as well as several other actors and actresses complaining about the lack of racial diversity and other things that are taking place in the HFPA. The reason why I think this is relevant as far as Tom Cruise's involvement, to my understanding, his son Connor Cruise has African ancestry. You're dealing with a man who obviously would have a problem if somebody was racial against blacks. So therefore, Tom Cruise spoke out. Good for him, as well as some of the others. If you really think back, there was an accusation made by Brendan Fraser many years ago. He said that the president of the organization actually groped him and made sexual advances towards him. And of course, they did a joint statement later apologizing for it, but never releasing the findings of their investigation. When asked what they were going to do about a lot of these allegations and the different problems that we're having, the HFPA actually gave an idea of what they wanted to do, but the timeline didn't really work well for NBC. I'm going to read the quote. "We continue to believe that the HFPA is committed to meaningful reform. However, change of this magnitude takes time and work, and we feel strongly that the HFPA needs time to do it right. As such, NBC will not air the 2022 Golden Globes. Assuming the organization executes on its plan, we are hopeful we will be in a position to air the show in January 2023. NBC released that statement. We also have the HFPA statement also, and we're going to read it as following. Regardless of what the next air date of the Golden Globes, implementing transformational changes as quickly and as thoughtfully as possible remain a top priority from our organization, the HFPA board said. We invite our partners in the industry to the table to work with us on the systemic reform that is long overdue, both in our organization as well as within the industry at large. So this was really like a big deal, guys, because, you know, when Netflix came out and said that they were going to pull away, I'm going to read a quote from their CEO, Ted Sarandos. He said, "We're stopping any activities with your organization until more meaningful changes are made," he wrote. "We know that you have many well-intentioned members who want real change, and that all of us have more work to do to create an equitable and inclusive industry. But Netflix and many of the talent creators we work with cannot ignore the HFPA's collective failure to address these critical issues with urgency and rigor. So that was the quote that came from Netflix CEO. You also had a letter Sunday that was written by Warner Media, HBO, and other studios, TNT, TBS, and they said they'll continue to refrain from directing engagement with the HFPA, including sanctioned press conferences and invitations to cover other industry events with talent until stronger changes are implemented. So it appears that right now we're in a situation where Hollywood is saying, hey, look, enough is enough, y'all. You know, we really need to change the dynamic. And they were saying that, you know, there were basically a lot of comments that members made that were racially insensitive. As I mentioned earlier, you know, Brendan Fraser said that he had been sexually harassed, and NBC pays like $60 million a year just to air the Globes. They have a contract with them. So if NBC says, hey, look, we're pulling the plug, they're not going to be able to just jump up and go find another network overnight because they're already contractually obligated to NBC. So I will keep you guys posted as I hear more about this story. I think it's a pretty big deal that these A-listers begin to speak out. I think it's a message in this that people need to hear. Folks are tired of racism and ignorance, and they're just not going to stand for it anymore. It's just time now for action. So hopefully the HFPA will go ahead and get it together, and they'll do the necessary changes needed to make it more equitable and more fair to minorities and other people. All right, so on to other news. In Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp signed a repeal of a Civil War era law. And I want to share this story with you guys. It was taken from WSB-TV. It says the Civil War era law allowing Georgians to perform a citizen's arrest has been officially repealed. Governor Brian Kemp signed House Bill 479 at the state capitol Monday afternoon. The General Assembly approved of the repeal of Georgia's citizens arrest law in March. Kemp and state lawmakers have been pushing for the repeal for nearly a year following the death of Ahmaud Arbery. The shocking video that circulated months later caused an uproar which caused an awareness to the case and allowed them to recognize the wrong that was done in South Georgia as they began to try to take action to fix it. The governor was joined by a bipartisan group of legislators, advocacy organizations, and members of Ahmaud Arbery's family. Now, moving on to the case here. The three men that had been charged with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery invoked the current citizens arrest law as their defense. So last week, a trial date was officially set with jury selection to begin on October 18th. Governor Brian Kemp said, after the tragic killing of Ahmaud Arbery, we knew that action was needed to ensure that the antiquated Civil War era statute could not be used to justify rogue vigilantism in the Peach State. Arbery, who was 25, was jogging through a Brunswick neighborhood on February 23rd, 2020, when Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, and William Roddy Bryan chased after him in a pickup truck. The group claimed that Arbery was a burglar and a suspect in their neighborhood. They claimed citizens' arrest powers in the chase before Travis McMichael shot and killed Arbery. Bryan recorded the shooting on video, which went viral months after Arbery's death. So when you see the video, for those who haven't seen it, it was very difficult to watch. The father, Gregory McMichael, who was former law enforcement, used his connections to try to evade and keep them from being arrested and charged with this crime. He reached out to the district attorney's office, called them personally for advice on what to do about the situation. And it wasn't until Roddy Bryan actually released the video, thinking that it would help their case, that many people were able to see the horrific video for what it was. And upon hearing the different things that have come out since then, it's not looking good for the McMichaels, as it shouldn't be, because what they did was wrong. Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William Roddy Bryant Jr. also were indicted in charges by the federal government. It says the three Georgia men pleaded not guilty to federal hate crime charges Tuesday in the death of Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old black man who was chased and shot while jogging near his home, according to online court documents. And this was taken from USA Today. Greg McMichaels, a 65-year-old former police officer, Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael's 35-year-old son, and William Roddy Bryant appeared in front of a U.S. magistrate judge Benjamin Cheesebro for their first court appearance since they were indicted on the federal charges. They are charged with violating Arbery's civil rights and attempted kidnapping. The father and son was also charged with using firearms during the commissions of a crime. Members of Arbery's family thanked their supporters and the federal government outside the courthouse Tuesday. And I'm going to read a quote. "This is a very emotional day for the family," family attorney S. Lee Merritt told reporters. "This is the first time that they've shared a courtroom with these three murderers." As stated earlier on February 23rd, 2020, the McMichaels armed themselves, got into a truck, and chased Arbery while he was running on a public street in Satilla Shores neighborhood of Brunswick, Georgia, according to court documents. Brian, their neighbor, joined the chase and used his truck to cut off Arbery and took video on his phone of Travis McMichael shooting Arbery 3 times at close range with a shotgun. So when all of these situations were going on, people, when all of this was happening, the world went into an uproar, because around the same time of this case, you had George Floyd and you had what was going on there. And many people, you know, it was called the summer of unrest. You had a lot of protests, had a lot of riots, and this thing went worldwide, from George Floyd to Ahmaud Arbery, as it should have, because you can't just go about killing people or taking justice in your own hands in the case of this former officer and his son, or in the case of Derek Chauvin and the other officers that was involved in that case. So good for them. I'm hoping to hear more about this case and keep you guys updated, because it appears that, you know, a lot of people would like to move on, but we can't move on until we deal with the hurts of the past. We're going to catch a quick break and then we'll be right back. What's up, guys? How you doing? This is Micah Dobbins, host of the Micah Dobbins Show, and this show is brought to you by none other than Tees of Faith 316. When I go out and about sometimes and I'm rocking my Teens of Faith gear, people usually read the statements on my shirts and ask me, where did I get them from? So now you guys too can order your own shirts from Tees of Faith, even the official clothing of the Micah Dobbins Show. This right now is one of my favorite hoodies, Thou Shalt Not Steal, still relevant, representing for Tees of Faith 316. All right, so we're back. This time, guys, we're going to have a little segment called Micah Reacts. So I'm going to share a few things as I react to a couple of things that happened. For those who haven't seen it, Umar Johnson and Jesse Lee Peterson recently went back at it for round 2. And when I tell you this was the craziest video I've seen in a while, y'all, this was crazy. For those who don't know, Umar Johnson is basically a Hotep hustler, a guy who calls himself the King Kong of consciousness, Dr. Umar, mind you. But he goes about, you know, speaking different things. I'm going to go ahead and play a couple of clips for you guys to hear.
That's a lie. Controls opportunities and resources, Sister Tammy. Racism is not about the attitude. It's about the control of resources and opportunities.
Tammy, that is not true. This is why we have to we must get to know ourselves so that we can overcome that fallen state. Dr. Umar is evil for putting out a lie like that, lies like that, because people are going to believe in it.
Let's refrain from calling people names.
We have to refrain, Sister Tammy, but at the same time, I think it's important that we understand the difference between the Negro and the coon. The Negro is innocent in his ignorance, Sister Tammy, but a coon knows better. But the coon voluntarily identifies with his oppressor because there is an agenda that he's looking to get filled. And the sad thing about Jesse Lee Peterson is he is too old to be cooning at this point in his life. And the fact that he claims to be a man of God doing the devil's work makes him a total hypocrite.
But Tammy, you know what I just want to add to that? To hear Dr. Umar and the other man to speak this way.
That's Michael.
Is Michael, sorry. To hear Micah and Dr. Umar speak this way is abnormal for men. Normally men, when I was growing up, they had logical mindset. But today's black man has an illogical mindset because he thinks like a woman.
There is nothing more effeminate than a white man defending a white power structure against black people. There is nothing more effeminate than a black man defending a white power structure against black people.
Hey, why are you speaking?
You are politically effeminate, Jesse Lee
logical
Peterson.
in their mind.
You are politically
and
effeminate.
Women are illogical
you are
in their
politically
mindset, right?
effeminate.
Why are you
You are defending the white power structure against your own people while you claim to be a man of God. You are a disgrace to your race, sir. You are a disgrace to your race. Say that again.
Would you consider them sellouts?
Who?
Steve Harvey.
I wouldn't consider Steve Harvey a sellout as strictly as I would consider a Shaquille O'Neal, a Charles Barkley, and a Kendrick Perkins sellout.
And for those who don't know, Jesse Lee Peterson is one who claims to be a reverend, a conservative radio host who is off the chain as well. And my reaction to this video was it was hilarious. The fact that Umar had to explain that there were levels to the coon kingdom and that he had Jesse Lee Peterson as a grade A coon.
But there is levels to the coon kingdom. There's levels to the coon kingdom. So even though they are all sellouts, you have your grade A coons like Jesse Lee Peterson and Charles Barkley. And then you have your grade B coons, which would be like a Kendrick Perkins and a Shaq. And then you have your grade C coons, which would be like a Steve Harvey. So there's levels to the coon kingdom. Say again.
But you do put him in the coon kingdom.
I would put Steve Harvey in the coon kingdom, but he wouldn't be grade A like Jesse Lee Peterson and Charles Barkley.
Reverend Jesse.
Yes.
You're a part of the coon kingdom, he says.
That's right. You know, you just heard the voice of a beta male. That made no sense of what the doctor said and what Michael said.
It would be interesting to see what he thinks about like Candace Owens and some of the others, where they qualify. Are they grade A? Are they grade B coons, etc.? And on the flip side, Jesse Lee Peterson did his usual job at trolling, calling Umar Johnson everything from effeminate to being too much like his mother and grandmother, you know, and speaking to him to being a beta, as he always says.
Beta male. Beta males.
These companies that we spend money with, but bring that money back to the African American community.
You guys need to stop begging, man.
Bring that money back to the black people. Please, sir, don't interrupt.
Talk about
yield, Jesse.
Michael, stop begging.
Bring that money back to the African American community.
Stop begging, Michael.
And you utilize that money to help empower African American owned businesses also. Okay?
Michael, men don't beg. Stop doing that.
Please, sir, don't interrupt me.
Begging, man.
I'm holding back on you.
So it was just a comical thing, to be honest, guys. I was embarrassed a little bit for both of them. Umar for, halfway through the interview laughing, realizing like, what kind of interview is this? It was on the Fox Soul channel on Tammy's show. And it had another guy by the name of Michael Imhotep on there, but he pretty much couldn't hardly get a word in otherwise because Umar and Jesse Lee Peterson provided all the entertainment that you would need. So the thing about Umar y'all got to remember is that he's about that money.
I need everybody in here to come up with a dollar amount that you can afford to mail every month, and you mail it. I don't care if it's $10, $20, $50. You come up with what you can afford and you send me that. I'm getting sick and tired of getting texts on my cell phone for black folk talking about I've donated like they done. I better get some more and some more and some more and some more until we hit the goal, brothers and sisters. That's
more gifts, more gifts, more gifts. Donations, 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 gifts, gifts. Gifts.
Donations, gifts, gifts. And you got to remember that Jesse Lee Peterson just likes to clown and say things just to get under people's skin. So you kind of have two guys who are trolls, characters, if you will, on the internet going at it at the same time. And it was pretty funny. I'm going to be honest. So I laughed at that one. All right.
Beta male. Beta males.
On another note in the entertainment world, Cobra Kai has wrapped up season 4, and I'm excited about that. For those who don't know, I've been a Cobra Kai fan since day one. I remember watching the first episode when it aired on YouTube, and then after the second season, it was discontinued from YouTube and everybody was worried, but it was picked up by Netflix swiftly, who made us wait for the third season and then announced that they were going to go ahead and roll out with another couple of seasons. Hopefully it'll continue to go on as a series, but they did wrap season 4 about a week ago here in Atlanta. And the cool thing about it is Netflix also announced that they're going to be releasing season 4 this year around the 4th quarter. So guys, we're looking at somewhere around October, November, December, but Cobra Kai season 4 will be out earlier rather than us have to wait to 2022, which is always a great thing. If you haven't seen this show, we don't recommend it for your children, but for the adults or the older crowd, you're able to watch it and kind of have a laugh. I like the show because it takes me to the 80s meets 2020. So the nostalgia of it, just, having that old feeling when you was a kid in the 80s watching the original Karate Kid, but then knowing what's going on in today's modern world and seeing Miguel and Sam and Tori and all the new characters, you're able to kind of get a feel for how this generation versus our generation can collide in a show like this. I love the fact that they do a lot of throwbacks from the old show. There's, I guess, what people call Easter eggs, where you'll see certain segments that line up with the old canon. And I think it's a pretty solid show so far. So hopefully they'll continue on. I'm looking forward to season 4, and I'll keep you guys posted as I hear more about it. All right, guys, glad you are here for this final segment. I'm dealing with Word of the Day today. And it's been a while since I did a Word of the Day. And I wanted to go over this with you guys for a number of reasons. As I go throughout my day, time to time, and talking with different people, I get to meet people from all different walks of life, get to see them in their different elements, and get an understanding of some of the things that are going on in our society today and in our culture. I watch some of the things on the internet, and people feed me stories all the time. I've seen situations. I think it was Derek Jackson that was giving marital advice and got caught cheating. And then you had Kevin Samuels that likes to dog women and give advice. So I'm listening to all these different voices, people, these different things. And in realizing that many people will gravitate towards these things because they really don't have any direction in their own lives or have a compass, or they're looking for somebody to follow, or looking for somebody to try to lead them or show them the way. And my heart goes out to them truly, because many of them may have lacked having, a positive male influence in their life, a father figure. Maybe they had been, sexually or mentally or physically abused, and it has caused them to look to these men for answers. And I wanted to go over a couple of things that I hope you guys will consider and take to heart. So we're going to start with Psalms 128, starting at verse 1. It said, "Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways. For thou shalt eat of the labor of thine hands. Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee. Thy wife shall be as a fruit vine by the sides of thine house, and thy children like the olive plants round about thy table. Behold, that thus shall the man be blessed that feareth the Lord." So I kind of wanted to go over that just a little bit to help you guys realize that there are benefits to studying the Bible, to following the ways of God, to having an understanding when it comes to life. Many people tend to look at it as, it's a cop-out, it's an excuse. But I really want to encourage you to take time, especially after this pandemic and the rough year we had in 2020 now, in 2021. We're here to really consider, to go back and research for yourself the scriptures, and to consider some of the things that God is trying to show us today. When we read that, and it talks about how, he'll eat of the labor of his hands. The scripture exhorts us in Ephesians 4:28, how we're to labor with our hands, how we're to be diligent workers as men. It says, let him bestow still no more, but rather let him give thanks. And he should be able to labor, and do his thing. The scriptures is always exhorting the men to be willing to produce and to step up. And when you don't move forward, when you don't allow God to make you into the man that he desires you to be, or the woman he desires you to be, you're going to find yourself falling victim to people like this, who try to talk all kind of shenanigans and get you caught up in foolishness and folly and drama. I want to read this for the men, 1 Corinthians 13:11. And technically, it really could go for everybody, but I'm just going to go ahead and read it. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. It says, "When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things." Interesting. He says, listen, when I was a child, I thought as a child. I reasoned as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. When you talk about being a man, and there are many out here that'll try to tell you what a man is, for one, Stop doing childish things. You know, stop always trying to find the easy route and by hook or by crook trying to make it. Just start doing things honest and decent and living up to a standard of what a man is. Saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to step up. I'm going to actually marry the woman that I call myself in love with. I'm not just going to have a bunch of kids with her and leave her out there by herself, but I'm actually going to be the husband and be the provider and take care of the children. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, a lot of people are lost in the sauce right now. They're not getting this. And it's sad. It really is sad to see our culture so out of whack when it comes to what manhood is, what it is to be a man. You know, you got people arguing over you alpha male, beta male, half a male, female, whatever male. Bro, just be a man. Be what God made you to be and step up to the plate and put away childish things. Put away childish things means to quit running around, you know, thinking you pretty boy Floyd being a player when you're well in your 30s, 40s, 50s. You're too old for that, bro. Like, it's time to let that kind of stuff go. It's time to man up and go ahead and marry the woman that you love. You know, don't lead a bunch of ladies on. That's another thing, ladies. For you, you know, you got to grow up. You can't keep following these men to the end of the rainbow in relationships that ultimately go nowhere. These guys know they can string you along. They know that you're desperate and that you're going to listen to the statistics that, you know, it's 10 women to every one man. So when you start to believe a lot of these things, you start to live it out versus trusting that God is able to lead you to a spouse, that he's able to preserve somebody for you, that he has somebody particularly for you that will love you and you can love them. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are hurting. So these so-called relationship gurus are able to start coming out the woodwork and spewing whatever they want out of their mouth. And you guys are buying it hook, line, and sinker. So I'm hoping that you'll put away childish things, that you'll grow up. When you talk about the women, let's go there. I'm looking at Proverbs 31. We're going to talk about the women for a minute. And when you look at Proverbs 31, picking up around verse 10, it says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life." And when you read about the Proverbs 31 woman, not only does it say a lot of great things about her, but it shows that the man can actually trust her. She's not going to do him evil. She's not going to be up in his face trying to compete with him, rolling her neck, snapping in his face and pushing his forehead, trying to compete and show that I'm just as bad and big as you are. You know, she's not going to do these kind of things. He went on to let you know that, you know, she's going to be able to consider a field and buy it. She's frugal and she's intelligent with her finances. She's not just taking your money and running amok with it or using her own money running amok with it, but she's actually using it for things that are going to benefit the family. It says she stretched out her hands to the poor. She reaches her hands to the needy. She's a woman of compassion. She's not self-centered or egotistical to where it's all about her, but she's willing to sacrifice and give to help others as well as take care of her household and her man. Another thing it says later on in that chapter, it says her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. The children call her blessed, but notice in the text it says she had a husband. You know, a lot of these children are bitter and angry because they had moms that were too busy dating out there and not spending time with them. They had dads that were too busy being player, fly, pimp, mac, and not being a father to them and making babies all over the place. You know, and guys, it's time for us to turn the tide and stop this stuff. Put away childish things. It said, "Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised." A woman that fears the Lord will be praised. When you're a God-fearing woman, you know, when you're not running around like Susie Sally Faye, just giving yourself to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes through the way, men notice that. You know, people respect that. You don't have to listen to these crazy relationship gurus telling you all this extra stuff. What you need to do is you need to start reading in scripture and finding your place in God and allowing him to lead you to the person he has for you. And likewise for the man, don't let society tell you what a man is, because they'll have you running around thinking you got to have 4, 5 baby mamas and now you a man. No. Allow the Bible to correct you and help you in your thinking so that you can, you know, be a real man according to what God has set the standard for, and a real woman, and you'll be able to move forward together. So hopefully this has been a blessing to you guys, this word of the day. Just wanted to share a couple of scriptures, spiritual vitamin, if you will, and hopefully you guys will be able to take that for what it's worth. All right, we're going to go ahead and get ready to close out. Thank you guys for watching.